Hey guys, so glad that you joined in today with us. I just want to tell you that God has amazing things in store for you as well. I want to ask you, how many of you may know about this television series or character called Hannah Montana? You know, most of you may know about it. Or in case you do not know what this is about, it's about a girl called Miley Stewart. Okay, it's a television character, and this Miley Stewart, who's just a normal girl like everybody else, you know, has another personality, has another side to her, where she is a great rock star, a pop star called Hannah Montana. And so the people who know her as Miley Stewart do not know that that same girl is the famous pop sensation who's Hannah Montana. So they're like thinking this is a normal girl. So when she walks in as Miley Stewart, people think this is just another girl. But when she walks in as Hannah Montana, people are going to be like, oh my gosh, this is Hannah Montana. They go crazy, they scream and they shout, because now they look at her as the great celebrity, whereas when she walks in as Miley Stewart, they look at her as just a normal girl. But it's the same girl, she has the same talent, but people are not able to see that the same normal girl to whom they are talking to is actually a star on stage, is actually Hannah Montana. What I want you to understand is, some episodes, if you see, it's so funny how some people come and console Miley Stewart, saying, hey, maybe you don't have the skill to be on stage, maybe you don't have the skill to speak or sing, or you're just, you know, don't worry, you're just a normal person. But it's funny because they don't realize that that same girl happens to be Hannah Montana. But what's my point? The same Hannah Montana, who's a star on stage, when she walks in as Miley Stewart, some people are blinded to see who she really is. This may be a word of encouragement to some of you. Are people in your life not valuing you for who you really are? Are people blinded from seeing you for who you really are? Are there people in your life who don't really care about you, thinking they know everything about you and that they have sized you up, and then they think, you know what, that's it, you know, you're just an average, normal, mediocre, nothing so special, nothing so great about you, you're just another one of the faces on this planet Earth. But can I tell you something? People may not see you for who you really are, but that does not mean that you're nobody, because God has made you for a reason. God has made you for a purpose, and at the right time, He's going to unveil who you really are to this world. See, when you think about in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 16, it talks about a time when prophet Samuel goes to anoint the next king of Israel. So he goes to anoint the next king of Israel, and the Lord tells him, go and anoint one of the sons of Jesse. So he goes to the place of Jesse, and then he tells Jesse, I want you to line up all the sons that you have. So Jesse lines up the sons, and then prophet Samuel looks at one of the sons and says, oh my goodness, I think this guy is going to be the next king. And then at that moment, God says, hey, listen, shut up. He's not going to be the next king. I've already rejected him. The world looks at the outside, but I look on the inside. Can I tell you something? There may be certain people in your life you look at and say, oh, you know what, for them everything is so easy. They just go to an interview, they get a job. They just get hooked up very easily. They just go to this place, they get to favor like anything. They look at the influence, looking at their personality, people are just falling prey to them. You know, for me, even to get a small thing is so difficult. Am I speaking to somebody here? Are you feeling like people are not valuing you for who you are? They just look on the outside and choose somebody else whom they think is better than you. Can I tell you something? It may be the case. That's what happened to Prophet Samuel when he looked in the natural. But then God said, you know what? That's the way the world system works, but that's not the way God works. And then a little later, he lines up all the sons, and then God says, you know what, none of these are the sons of Jesse who's going to be the next king. And then prophet Samuel asks Jesse, is there any other son that you have? And at that moment, Jesse says, oh yes, I do. I have another son, but he's just a shepherd boy taking care of the sheep. He's just an ordinary guy, just a normal child, just taking care of the sheep. These are ones in the military. These other sons had military training and all sorts of stuff. They were worldly wise. They were worldly great. This is just a shepherd boy. But you need to understand something here. If you just read a couple of verses down the line, okay, you see King Saul wanted somebody to play a musical instrument for him. Okay, all this is in the 1 Samuel chapter 16. And then somebody suggested, why don't you ask David to play the harp for you, the son of Jesse? Now, I want you to just pause for a moment and think about this. If a president of a nation wants to choose somebody to sing for him or to play for him, he's not going to choose some Tom, Dick, and Harry. He's going to choose the most well-renowned, the most popular, the most top-rated, the best of the field musician or singer. He's not going to choose some Tom, Dick, and Harry. Hey, can you sing? Can you play? No, he's not going to do that. He's going to choose the best. So if you look at that, if Saul had to choose David to play the harp for him, it shows what level David would have been at that juncture. He would have been so popular as a musician in the kingdom. He would have been so talented, which means to say that he was so talented, he was so on such a high rate in terms of his music skills, yet his own father forgot to line him up and didn't value him when Prophet Samuel came to line up or to anoint the next king of Israel. Are you looking at what I'm trying to tell you? There are some times when God hides us like that because people don't value us. And we feel like, what's happening? Why aren't people valuing you? Can I tell you something? That's the way God hides us. Why? To protect us. A little later, when Saul sends out to bring David, he says, bring out David the shepherd. It's so powerful. Why? Because David could have been like, you know what, I'm going to be the king and he's calling me a shepherd. But let me tell you something. That's the way God hides us, so that if Saul knew that David is going to be the next king, he wouldn't have invited him to the palace in the first place. He would have just killed David. That's the way God protects us. That's the way God hides us, so that people don't so that people don't see us for who we really are, because they cannot tolerate what God is about to do in our life. The Bible talks about in the book of Isaiah 49 that God hides us like a quiver. And just like this, I want to close with this example of mine. I was in a wedding and I'm just an introverted person. I don't like to talk to people that much. In the sense, that's my personality. I get scared, I get shivers down my spine, and I start, shivering to talk to people on a one-on-one basis. You know what? I can talk in front of a huge crowd, but that's not a problem for me. But if I have to talk on a one-on-one basis, I get so scared. And so this one particular person looks up to me, and then he comes to me. He really meant well. He said, John, what if God called you to be a minister of the gospel? What if God called you to, preach in front of big crowds, or to, do this and do that? And he was talking about all the things which I actually do. And I didn't tell him that I already do all that. And then it was just a matter of a couple of minutes of conversation. We were just met for the first time. And he started advising me. And I felt just as, like the way they advise Miley Stewart, saying, what if, you don't have the skills? It's okay, don't worry, blah, blah, blah. Even though she's actually having the skills, even though she's, a star on stage, but people are not seeing her for who she is. Same way, I realized this person was advising me on things like this. And then a little later, we just completed the conversation, and then we were sharing our names. And then he said, wait a minute, are you John Giftah? I said, yes. Are you that preacher on TV? Are you that minister who has his own ministry and blah, blah, blah? He started telling, yes, I said, yes. He said, oh my goodness, I told you all these things without knowing that you were John Giftah. I felt like I was Hannah Montana. What is my point? Sometimes we may be in a similar boat when people just look at us on the outside and don't value us, or don't realize what God has really placed on the inside of us, and don't realize who we really are. So in those moments, I don't want you to get discouraged. I want you to imagine like this. I want you to think like this, because that's the way God hides us. Why? He wants to hide us from the negative people. He wants to keep us in that position, because just like in any superhero movie, you realize that the hero wins in the last, not in the beginning, not in the middle, always in the end. I don't know how it happens, but he gets the power and then he just goes bam. That's the way God is about to do in your life. In the end moment, he's going to release you and say, you know what, you are going to go out and finish what God has called you. And that's the way God is going to do in your life. Don't be discouraged. Don't be dismayed. Don't feel bad or down about yourself because people don't value you. Because your value is not dependent on people's words. Your value is dependent on what God's word declares about you. And he has still got a plan for you. And always remember, when God has kept you in a season of hiding, it is because he wants to protect you from people who can harm you. May God bless you. Amen. If you were blessed by this message, I want you to like it, share it, and subscribe. If you have not subscribed to this channel, I want to tell you that God is going to do amazing things in your life through these simple acts that you're doing. May God bless you. See you next time.